Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into admissions at the college level. My guest today is Jonathan Williams. He is the AVP for Undergraduate and Admissions for NYU in New York. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Yeah, so I graduated from Dartmouth College. My undergraduate degree is in French, modified with history and government, and then I did a graduate master's program at the University of Maryland.
Wow, fantastic. So let's just go back in high school before we get to where you are. When did it all begin for you thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all start and click?
Yeah, so college was always sort of impressed upon me as something that was important to do, even though my mother, who raised me, did not go to college herself. She was always like, boy, you're going to college. So I had this idea for a very long time. And then when I got into high school, I was doing well academically. I was an athlete. And so I started, as early as 10th grade, I started getting recruitment letters to play football and things like that. And so it was really sort of a central part of why my understanding of why I was going to school and why it was important to do well.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of young guys, I had dreams of playing professional something or other. And,
Sure.
And so it was great to kind of get contacted by coaches and have the opportunity to learn about school
Right.
Through that process.
Now, was it Dartmouth only recruiting you, or did you have a wide variety of schools?
Yeah, I had a number of schools that were recruiting me. Some Pac-12 schools. UCLA was there for a while. Michigan for a while. As I got closer to graduating high school, it became clear to me that I really wanted to be in an environment that was going to be really competitive athletically as well as academically. And so having the opportunity to go to an Ivy League institution was really exciting. And Dartmouth was the one that really sort of stood out for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now you're at Dartmouth, and what's it like? Tell me a little bit about the 4 years of Dartmouth.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. I think most of my time at Dartmouth was just sort of walking around wide-eyed and amazed at a place that was really different from something that I knew growing up in the Pittsburgh area. But it made some of the best friends that I have today at that place, and it was just a tremendous opportunity. I got to travel abroad, studied in France for a few months.
Wow.
Obviously, played football, which was a great experience there. And just met lots of really amazing people from all over the world.
Wow.
And so it was a wonderful experience. It was a challenging experience. Academically, it was tough. It was the toughest thing I'd ever done up to that point. And I managed to graduate with my head above water.
Great.
And can look back pretty fondly on that experience.
So now, was it in your mind that you wanted to do grad school right in college, or was it something that you got as you went along?
Yeah, I really sort of saw myself not so much as an academic, but really I thought of marketing and advertising as a place that I might land. And I did a lot of interviewing. Back then, companies would come to campus and you'd go through this corporate interviewing process. And so that was fun. I got to visit Chicago and New York to do some interviewing as well, second rounds of interviewing. And it actually just didn't work out. I got no job offers. So I decided to visit a mentor of mine, somebody who had been in the dean's office, who had switched over to the admissions office, just to talk and think about next steps. And at her recommendation, I put in my application for the admissions office. She said, if you work here in admissions, you can continue to take advantage of the career services office.
Wow.
for a year, and maybe it'll work out over the course of the year. So it was always intended just to be sort of this way station, the stop along my path to doing advertising. And honestly, I applied, I got the job, and from day one, it was just clear to me that this was just an awesome career, and I was really attracted to it.
So now, how does one graduate from grad school and become the AVP for undergrads of admissions at NYU University in New York?
Yeah, that's a pretty long story. I'll try and squeeze it into a couple minutes here. But so my admissions career started, worked at Dartmouth and at the University of Pennsylvania. Went to the other side of the desk and was a college counselor and a teacher and a coach for a while. And then went to Oberlin College to head up their multicultural admissions process. And it was at that point, about 10 years in, where I decided that I really wanted to go to school, to a graduate program that would help me understand a few things that I was seeing in the profession. And so I applied and got into the University of Maryland at College Park, which was also a really great experience. And I spent 2 years there with some of the leaders in this industry, just getting to know the profession. What's interesting about that experience, the reason I sort of point to it, is that it actually it kept me in education, but it pointed me in a different direction. And so I began working after graduation with nonprofits, doing work around helping young people understand access to education, what it means to put together a good application, put together a good essay. So I worked in a couple of nonprofits that did that sort of work. And I also ended up working for 10 years or so with the Corporation for National and Community Service, which is the umbrella organization for AmeriCorps. But my work there was also around recruitment and access to education, because students or young people who do AmeriCorps also earn an education stipend that would lead them to being able to afford education. So doing all that work, it was fun. I sort of stumbled out of the admissions world, and raised a couple of kids, and my daughter ended up applying and getting into NYU. And so her experience there was really great. She loved it, and I met a number of really fantastic people that supported her journey along the way. One of which was the director of admissions, and so I would see, because I was still connected to the industry, I would see her at conferences and that sort of thing, and we became friends. And I got a notice that she had left the position, and I thought, oh, I wonder where she's going. And my wife said to me, well, aren't you going to apply? Because I was at this point in my career where I was ready to do something different. So I called somebody that Sean Abbott, who at that point was the Dean of Admissions at NYU, just to explore. And one thing led to another. I applied and I got the job. And so that's how I ended up at NYU. As you know, Sean left to run things at Temple University, and so I applied for that position, and so here I am.
Wow, fantastic. So now let's get into NYU and admissions at NYU. What is the process for admissions at NYU?
Yeah, it is a pretty straightforward process. We're part of the Common Application Group, so there are about 700-800 schools that submit to using the Common App, and it allows students to use just one application, send it to multiple places. And so the application process is pretty straightforward, submitting high school transcripts, recommendations from teachers and counselors, submitting an essay. We actually have 2 essays. One is the general Common App essay, where students get to choose from 6 different prompts. And the other is about why NYU? Why is a student interested in applying to NYU? And that's pretty much it on the students' side of things, how they actually do it from a process standpoint.
Yeah.
But of course, there's a lot more that goes into it, right?
Sure.
Our evaluation process is holistic, meaning that we look at every aspect of the applicant, what they submit. We think about that in the context of where they are applying from, the high school, the community they're applying from. We think about that in the context of NYU and what is it that's important to us. We have all sorts of priorities, right? We have poets on campus, we have physicists, we have artists, we have engineers, and all of those things have to be satisfied through the applicant pool. Mm-hmm. And then in that process, we really kind of look to see if a student understands why they want a place like NYU. Mm-hmm. That's part of what we're looking for in that application process. And so we put all of that together. Every applicant gets at least 2 what we call reads, sometimes 3, just so that we are checking ourselves and we're making sure that we understand what is it that this student is presenting, how does it fit into the overall set of priorities and goals that we have as an institution. And then we offer admission to a few of them. Sadly, we can't offer admission to everyone that we would love to.
Sure.
But we have seen tremendous growth in our applicant pool, both academically, as well as in terms of diversity. And it's really shaped what NYU is today.
So now the team of admissions at NYU, do they cover the United States, the globe? Do you have people like all over the place just sending you people? How does it all work?
How does it all work? Yeah, so interestingly, NYU actually has 3 different what we call portal campuses around the globe where a student can actually spend their 4 years as an NYU undergraduate. So there's obviously the campus in New York, but there's also a campus in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates and a campus in Shanghai in China. And so any one of those campuses, a student can earn their NYU degree. In addition to that, we have campuses on every continent, 11 additional campuses, where students will take a semester, sometimes 2, and study abroad. But again, they are NYU campuses. And this is part of the excitement of working at NYU. You can be an NYU student, go to our campus in Ghana, your campus ID will swipe and you'll have access to everything there. Your credits, the classes that you take are all integrated. Your financial aid goes with you. So we are truly a global campus, and as such, we have an office that is global. So I've got about 50 folks in New York. There's also another dozen or so who are admissions counselors in Abu Dhabi, another 12 or so who are in Shanghai, and then 2 who have an office in London and help ground us there in Europe. And so the process is that we, in the fall, practically that whole team is traveling the globe, telling people about NYU and what the opportunities are and how to apply. And they do that from, say, late August, early September, all the way through to the end of October.
Wow.
As soon as we get back, it's time to read applications. So we're right in the middle of that process now. We have 3 different what we call notification plans: early decision 1, early decision 2, and regular decision. And so we're reading applications all the way through until the end of March.
Wow.
When we send out those decisions.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a huge operation. We do a lot. Last year we had more applications to NYU than any other school in the history of private education in America. 85,000 applications came through, and so we have 7,000 spots. So you can imagine there's a lot of work to kind of sort through all of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then is it like a funnel effect where it keeps on getting higher and higher to more and more people that have to look at it to get those 7,000 open spots?
Yeah, so we can't predict how many applications we're going to get, and so it's nice when we see that the recruitment efforts that we have put in are paying off, and we've seen the increase in those applications. But Yeah, the result is we got to have more people to be able to do that. So in addition to those folks that I described, there's another 40 or so who will join us just to help us read through the applications. Wow. And as I mentioned earlier, we're making sure that every applicant is being fully considered. Everything that they've submitted is important. If you think about like reading a novel, every chapter of a novel reveals something else about that story.
Right.
And so the application is the same way. Every piece of information is a new chapter in that story of that individual.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at everything to really understand that student's application within the context of the pool.
Now, does NYU also have like an interview level where, the Ivy Leagues do it? They do
Right.
an interview with the students or the prospective students?
Right. So we don't have an interview as a part of our process. What is a little bit different is because we have a School of the Arts, the Tisch School of the Arts, and a couple of other performing arts and visual arts programs in some other schools. There are certain programs where a student will audition or submit a portfolio as a part of their application process. But that's for those folks who are specifically applying to, say, a film and television program or drama or studio art.
Gotcha. Now, is there many different majors that people can take at NYU?
There's over 230 areas of study at
Oh my
NYU.
God.
It's amazing how much, everything from anthropology and art to, zoology or, we have an engineering school that's in Brooklyn. We have the Tisch School of the Arts. We have a School of Social Work, School of Nursing, all at the undergraduate level. There are 10 undergraduate schools and programs in New York, and then the schools in Abu Dhabi and in Shanghai are like small liberal arts colleges, each one having over 20 different majors that students can take advantage of. So it's a really huge operation. The other thing that I really want to emphasize, Anthony, is that we have all of these choices, but there is this underlying connection of the NYU education. These are all NYU faculty, no matter where students are in the world. Sometimes they're faculty who are based in New York who will take 3 or 4 years and decide, they want to spend time teaching in Paris or our campus in Florence. And so there is just this, no matter where you are, there's an immersion in that local culture and a connection to New York, which really makes a fun distinction in terms of the classroom.
So now, what's appealing to the student that goes to NYU? Is it really just about New York City and being in the meat of New York City, or is it that I can go to a Shanghai or Abu Dhabi or something like that?
It's a little bit of all of the above, right? Because we're not the only school in New York. We're the only school in New York that has that name, but students could pursue their education at other New York City schools. So what we have in addition to that, and we are very much a part of New York City, what we have in addition to that is, we're a major research institution, and so students who are attracted to that will come to NYU. We are global, as I've mentioned, and so people who really want to have that experience of studying abroad or being in a classroom with students who are international, they're attracted to that. We send more students to study abroad, and we have more international students studying on our campus than any other school in the country. So, when I say we are global, it really is a part of our DNA. Yeah. And really it's about the way we go about education. So we are often referred to as the university without walls, because they're not a set campus, so to speak.
Right.
We blend into the city, and that's sort of how we go about education. There's what's happening in the classroom, but we're all really very much connected to what's happening outside the classroom as well.
Now, a big question that a lot of parents always have is financial aid, or financing for any university, not just NYU, but every university that's out there. Does NYU do anything with them on how they can help them in different monies? It's just not financial aid, but is there any Anything that the school helps them with?
Yeah, we actually have an Office of Financial Education that works with students and their families both while they're at NYU, but also before, to talk about different ways to finance education. You know, financial aid is actually a really personal sort of choice, and some families choose to use loans as a way to help pay for their their children's tuition. Thank you, and others have other choices. But one of the things that I often encourage families to do is to have the tough conversations as a family. So if finances are an issue, really understand the schools that that you can afford and how they go about that process. We all do it very differently. And even though you hear these terms like meeting 100% of need, what does that mean in terms of the admissions process? Yeah. At NYU, we are what's known as need blind, so we don't pay attention to or have any information about what a family's ability to pay might be when we're making that admissions decision. Mm-hmm. So that puts pressure on us to come up with a financial aid package that allows families to afford the school. And so it's a really important conversation for families to have mm-hmm. As they're going into this process.
Now, how about clubs and things of that sort at the school? Does the university have sports? Does it have extracurricular activities at the school?
Yeah, you know, I think sometimes people think of NYU as a place where, you know, there's no tradition or spirit, and that nothing could be further from the truth. We have 300 different student clubs and organizations. There's 23 varsity sports for student athletes. There are intramural and club sports. Our hockey team is one of the best at its level, but it's a club team, right? So you know, students can have a little bit more control over a club team than, say, if they're playing for a varsity team. Sure. So we have it all, and there are traditions throughout the year that students take advantage of. It's a very student-friendly, student-focused kind of place. In the residence halls, yes, NYU has residence halls. You can live on the floor that has a particular theme around an academic area. Wow. So there's lots and lots of ways that students are engaged and pursue a full, enriching life at NYU.
Now, the admissions representatives that you have, did they go out to the high schools, talk to the guidance counselors, go to these college nights? Is that how they're promoting the school?
Absolutely. So they are in that time period between September and October, end of October. They are doing about 4 to 5 weeks of travel. Wow. Every day there are 5 or so appointments, from high school visits to visiting community-based organizations, sometimes evening programs where you know, they're inviting people from a particular area to come and hear about it, and getting that word out and handing out materials to help people better understand what's the kind of school NYU really is, and what it might be that we have to offer that's of interest to them.
Yeah, that's amazing that the school has got. That's how they're getting out to the different communities to do that.
It's a huge effort, and you know, we hire folks because there's such difference throughout the year in terms of what is needed, right? So you got to be able to do the grip and grin. You got to be able to do some data analysis, right? We have a really, really talented group of people who end up doing this kind of work. And so, you know, I feel very fortunate to have the team that I have, because it's hard to find that person who can do all of those different things.
So now, earlier you talked about early decision, and then there were two different early decisions and then a general. Give the families an understanding of what the earliest decision is, the second earliest decision, and what the general is.
Yeah. So the 2 early decision programs are identical except for the timing. So the first early decision deadline is November 1st. we take about 45 days to make that decision and send it out. So mid-December, as you can imagine, we're right around the corner from letting people know about early decision 1. Early decision 2, that deadline is January 1. People hear about mid-February. And then the regular decision process, which is the largest of those 3 notification plans, that's a January 1 deadline as well. And by April 1st, families will hear from us. The early process, whether you're looking at a school that has early decision or early action, early notification, it's important to understand what it is. I like to keep it simple. I like the idea of if you think that a school is your number 1 choice and you might just keel over, hiccup, and die if you don't get in, that's the way to think about early, right? It's your first choice. Yeah. With us, we have an early decision program. That's a binding commitment. So if you're admitted early decision to NYU, you withdraw all their applications from every other school, and you're expected to attend NYU in the fall.
Wow. Okay. So we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the sons and daughters that they have? They're interested in coming to NYU. Yeah. What advice do you want to give them?
So I get asked this one a lot, and I can speak to it from experience. I have 2 children who have both gone through this process and have graduated from college. So yes, it can happen. And I think one of the things that I learned in this process that was really, really helpful was that you start to move from being, as a parent, a dictator to a facilitator, right? So you have to move out of that space of saying this is what you need to do and when you need to do it, and really moving into the space of working with your young person to help them understand everything that's happening to them, right? There's a lot of interpretation that we as adults, seasoned adults, can help our children through in this process. And so that was really a powerful moment for us as a family to really begin understanding, let's have some conversations about what you really want and what you want to be and how you get there. And the other thing that I think can be helpful is to really compartmentalize this. And so as a family, identify a time during the week, maybe it's Sunday afternoon, Saturday morning, whatever it might be, that's college time. That's the time to sit down and talk about this stuff. And then the rest of the week, you just live your life.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.